This is Diane Troop. I'm happy to be addressing you today. This is a topic pretty near and dear to my heart. It started years ago. At a certain point in time, you stopped mentioning exactly how many years ago, but I started to recognize that there were a lot of fairly simple things that we could communicate to the design community to help them significantly save costs or optimize wall configurations. And it evolved into this seminar, which I continue to update and encourage you to send me little ideas if you have some thoughts to add to the seminar. And certainly the questions are most appreciated. As I said, my real objective here is to help you understand the interrelationship of masonry materials, architecture, engineering, construction, and that a few decisions on any one of those topics can lead to more efficient and economical structures, or unfortunately the reverse. I want to maybe open your eyes a little bit to some non-traditional structural masonry materials, and we're going to talk about some code provisions and other standards as appropriate to help you again get a depth of knowledge on this material. I say structural masonry. Occasionally I get people saying, what the heck do you mean by structural masonry? I'm talking about using masonry as a structural support. Bearing walls, shear walls, maybe a combination bearing and shear walls, structural cores, shafts, and there's even a hybrid system with steel. We're going to touch a little bit occasionally here on things like veneer or partition walls, which are technically not necessarily structural, but for the most part, I'm talking about using masonry as the structural material in your building. It's a very versatile structural system. It's fast, it's efficient, it's economical, and a lot of times, and here's really your first tip, it's going to be on the project anyway, so use it structurally. If you're going to have a CMU backup for your veneer, don't just make up the backup between a steel frame, consider using it structurally and improving the economics as a result. People don't realize that masonry is a finished trade. The code tolerances are much tighter than other structural materials. That's really an advantage when you go to talk about interfaces with other materials, roof systems, windows, doors, etc. There's very little lead time with masonry. This quote is one that if there's any contractors on there, I feel you cringing right now, but I heard it several years ago from one of the architects and engineers, and it kind of hit home. With masonry, you just pick up the phone and change can be done. I'm not sure that's the best plan, but I take the sentiment there. It's much easier with components like masonry to make changes than if you had something prefabricated in a shop, for example. The materials are local, the employment is local. It's, again, a material that's used efficiently. Structure, finish, fire, blast resistance, sheltering. It's green, and honestly, even though I'm a structural engineer, I mean, it looks good. I love that part. So with that prelude, let me talk a little bit about codes. I think one of the best things you can do is get started right. And I tend to start with codes, possibly because that's where a lot of my background has evolved and the experience I have. I want you to select the right code edition. I've been around long enough to remember when we were going to get one national code. It's better, but we don't have one national code, as I'm sure I'm telling anybody here on the phone anything new here. Throughout the session here, you will hear me mention the TMS 402, ACI 530, ASCE 5. That was formerly called the MSJC. In 2016 edition, TMS became the sole sponsor. with the blessings of ACI and ASCE. I will tend through the presentation to just say TMS 402. I will also say TMS 602 if we're talking about the specification. The number there at the end after the 402, for example, TMS 402-16, is talking about the addition of the TMS document. That would be referenced in the 2018 IBC. So I'll try and point out through the program which edition we're talking about.